Just about a week and a half ago, we got the official reveal on Valentine's Day of the MCU's Fantastic Four movie cast. We got Pedro Pascal, we got Joseph Quinn, Vanessa Kirby, and Ebon Moss-Bachrach. I think a great cast. I think fantastic, oh, pun intended, cast. And, we already knew this. Like these were the four that were rumored to be the castings, so it was no big surprise. But one of the biggest things with the Fantastic Four is this was like a multi-year casting journey, for better or for worse. It got annoying at times. At other times, it was exciting, and it was kind of like a fun game to play of like, oh, this actor's rumored, and that actor's rumored, and this A-list actor, and this completely random, obscure actor that you saw on a TV show 10 years ago is going to be Reed Richards. Like, it was crazy. It was all over the place. But now we have our official final casting of the Fantastic Four, which is great. We can finally lay all those rumors to rest, but it's now been revealed. One of the names that didn't come up during the casting process and the casting journey, actually very specifically, something I do want to point out before I get into this is, when it came to all the casting rumors, it was all about Reed Richards mainly, and also Sue Storm. There was a little bit about Johnny as well, but for the most part, Ben Grimm the Thing, there were like no rumors out there about who was rumored to be cast in the role. And then of course, obviously we ended up with Ebon Moss-Bachrach. But it's now been revealed that one of the other actors in the running was David Krumholtz. He revealed recently that he met with Matt Shakman about playing the Thing in the MCU's Fantastic Four, which again, obviously that didn't end up happening because we got Ebon Moss-Bachrach, fantastic casting because, it's clobbering time, cousin. And he actually just revealed in his first interview post-reveal, I think it was on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. He talked about how he's been cast in the role since August of 2023. So he's been in the role for quite some time now. This, I think personally, is the best casting of this MCU Fantastic Four. But David Krumholtz as the Thing, I totally would have been down for that as well. I think that's a great casting, actually. Just like Ebon, I think a little bit of an out-of-the-box, unexpected idea and unexpected casting, but I like it. And it also goes to show you how committed they were to getting a Jewish actor for this role. I think that's really phenomenal, because that's something that's important to a lot of people, for that Jewish representation, because we've never had a live action Ben Grimm the Thing played by an actual Jewish actor, especially since, that's kind of an important aspect of the character and has never even been mentioned or touched on in any of the past films. So I enjoy that that's going to be an aspect of this new iteration of the character. But David Krumholtz definitely, I think, would have been a great version of the Thing, for sure. But he now, obviously, since he missed out on that role, he's changed his tune a little bit. He now wants to play Mole Man in the MCU. It's a shoo-in for Mole Man, isn't it? But I don't know. I'll do anything Marvel tells me to. I'll probably end up playing like a superhero's therapist. Let's face it, there's slim pickings for guys like me in that world, unfortunately. Oh my god, yes, we need Mole Man. Mole Man is probably my favorite Fantastic Four villain. Yeah, I love Doctor Doom too, and Doctor Doom's obviously a better villain. But Mole Man, I don't know, just growing up, I've always loved this character. He's a little wacky, he's a little absurd, but he's cool. I've always just thought it was such an interesting character. Really kind of a tragic character as well. The guy was forced out of civilization, got to go live under the earth, and makes friends with all these monsters and creatures, and then tries to get his revenge on the people. Great character, who has never been done in live action. Unfortunately, we almost got him in Fan Four Stick, the 2015 Fantastic Four film, because Tim Blake Nelson was originally reported by the trades to be playing Harvey Elder, or Rupert Elder. Dang it, I don't even remember Mole Man's real name, but it's one of those two. I think it's Harvey. Yeah, so it was originally reported that he was playing that character, but that did not happen. He was just some random government guy in that film that just got killed off, so he did not become Mole Man. He was not Mole Man in that movie. We have never had a live action Mole Man. Again, that could possibly be just because he's a pretty ridiculous character. I think he probably could have fit in with those early 2000s Fantastic Four films because those were a little more comedic, kind of slapstick, cheesy films as well. But I think we need to see Mole Man in the MCU. This is something they need to do. There's so much potential. Well, not really a whole lot of potential, but like it would just be so cool for us comic fans of Mole Man to see him in live action, even if it's just for a small appearance. Because, I mean, it's highly unlikely he would be the main villain of a Fantastic Four movie, and there's been no rumors or reports about him being in this first MCU Fantastic Four film. Maybe he'll be in the sequel or the third movie, whatever it may be, or maybe he will be in this first movie, but just for a small appearance. You know, it could just be a small cameo for all we know. Because one thing I do want to point out is The Incredibles, obviously very successful franchise from Disney, is based off the Fantastic Four. Marvel's first family, Disney's first family of superheroes as well. These characters were based on the Fantastic Four and this family. And another character in this franchise that was based off the Fantastic Four in Marvel Comics was the Underminer, who is, I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's a ripoff of Mole Man. And the Underminer, the role he played in this franchise was he showed up at the end of the first movie and then was at the beginning of the second movie. So you could totally do the same exact thing with Mole Man. Have it either be like he's fighting the Fantastic Four at the beginning of the film, because I don't think we're doing the origin with this movie. When we start off the film, I believe they're already going to be the Fantastic Four, especially if we're doing the 60s theme for this movie, at least for the beginning. You know, a ridiculous character like Mole Man could fit into that 60s vibe for sure. You start off the movie, they're fighting Mole Man, that'd be fantastic. Also pay homage to, I believe, one of, if not the first Fantastic Four comic, they were fighting Mole Man. He's one of their first villains. So do that, please. I would love that, Marvel Studios. That's something, honestly, I've been begging for years and years, is to, just for MCU in general, is just to see smaller fights done. That was one of the things I loved about Avengers Age of Ultron, is at the beginning, you just saw the Avengers going on a regular mission. Sure, it ended up tying into the big overall plot, but seeing them just go try to take down Hydra, see the Fantastic Four just take down a small villain like Mole Man at the beginning of the film, that would be awesome. That would be really cool. And David Krumholtz as Mole Man, just like The Thing, is not a character I would cast him as. I don't think I've ever thought of David Krumholtz in the MCU at all. But I love this. I think this is a fantastic idea. He sure does have the look down for sure. I think this is great. I think this is a fantastic casting. And especially because when it comes to Mole Man in the MCU, this whole time I've wanted him in this Fantastic Four movie, I have been 100% concretely set on it being Danny DeVito, because Danny DeVito would be perfect as Mole Man. I mean, he's got the size, he's got the look, he is Mole Man. But honestly, now that I think about it, I really like David Krumholtz, the idea of him playing Mole Man as well. Maybe even a little bit better. I mean, the only real downside to David Krumholtz is just that, I mean, he's a little too tall, but they can CGI him, or he can be a little taller. Mole Man, I guess his height doesn't really matter a whole lot. With Danny DeVito, he's just getting a little up there in age. You know, he's got the gray hair now. But, I mean, he could still totally pull it off. So I'd be down for either casting. I know Sean Astin is another good idea that I've seen out there as well. I wouldn't mind that either. But definitely David Krumholtz and Danny DeVito are my top choices for that role. I think that will be fantastic. Both would be great for Mole Man in the MCU. But let's just talk about David Krumholtz in general, because so he missed out on The Thing and now he wants to play Mole Man. He talked about in this interview how he, growing up, was reading comics. Before he was an actor, he worked at a comic book store. At age 11, he wasn't paid in money, he was paid in comic books. He grew up watching these, reading these Marvel Comics characters and dreaming about one day them making movies about them. And now, obviously, the technology is there, and he's loved seeing these stories and these characters come to life, and he wants to be a part of that. He said that, the Thing, Mole Man, whoever it may be, he even said, as you saw earlier, it might even just be some superhero's therapist. Like, he just wants to be in the MCU. He will do whatever Marvel asks him, and I think that's great. I think that's awesome. I would love, love, love to see that. David Krumholtz, I think, is a great actor, a really underrated actor. Obviously, I feel like he's probably best known for the series Numbers, which I haven't seen, but it went on a couple seasons. Apparently, it was a pretty big hit in the early 2000s, late 90s, something like that. I best know him because I grew up watching him in the Santa Claus movies as Bernard, the head elf. Love this guy. And he returned last year, the year before, in the Santa Clauses series on Disney Plus as well. So that's great. I mean, I grew up watching this guy and then just saw him this past year in Oppenheimer, where he was fantastic. I mean, there was a lot of big name actors in that film, and I feel like he really, really held his own in a really surprisingly integral role. Really kind of the heart of the movie. Like, he really kind of gave us, he was like our eye line into what was happening in Oppenheimer. So I really enjoyed that. And so he can't play the Thing. Maybe he won't get to play Mole Man, but who else could he play in the MCU or just for Marvel in general? Well, I saw this on Twitter quite a while ago. Similar vibes, these two. I think that David Krumholtz would be a great Otto Octavius Dr. Octopus. I think he would be fantastic in the role. And this person right here, Ostenheimer, is so right. There are similar vibes here. Not only does he have a similar look to Alfred Molina as Doc Ock, but I feel like the way he talks, his line delivery is also very similar as well. I love this idea. The only problem with this is, of course, that in the MCU, we just had No Way Home happen, where Alfred Molina returned as Doc Ock, and that was great, but, it's kind of convoluted for the future of the MCU. Tom Holland now knows about Otto Octavius being Doc Ock, and Norman Osborn being Green Goblin, so it makes it kind of hard to do those villains again. And I may regret saying this, but there is a possible way this can be done outside of the MCU. And this put a lot of trust in Sony. But a couple months ago, there were rumors going around that Sony was developing solo movies for both Mysterio and Dr. Octopus. This is a video I made. This is the thumbnail from the video. I actually believe the first video I posted this year in 2024 on January 1st. So that's quite exciting. Go check it out if you haven't already. But there were rumors going around that there were solo movies in development for these two villains. I don't know if that's still happening, especially after the bombing of Madam Web and how much everybody hates that. And again, I'm not even sure if I want this because I feel like, in comparison to a Madam Web or a El Muerto, a Dr. Octopus movie or a Mysterio movie, there's way more potential there. I could see it working. I could see it kind of happening, especially Doc Ock for sure. But again, Sony just doesn't have a great track record. I don't really trust them with these characters. That's why I would love to see a good Dr. Octopus storyline done in the MCU with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, especially with Peter being in college now. Otto could be either his professor, or you could go the Spider-Man PS4 route and have him working with Otto in the lab, and they could be lab partners or, mentor and mentee. There's a lot that could be done with that. There's huge potential there. Honestly, just adapt that Spider-Man PS4 video game. Chef's kiss. That would be fantastic. But again, with No Way Home and that having happened, it makes it hard for that to work. And it's been said that with Spider-Man 4 and 5 and probably the rest of these Tom Holland Spider-Man films, they're going to focus more on villains that haven't been done in live action and steer away from the ones that were recently done in No Way Home, which makes sense. I don't blame them. But just, this would be fantastic. And I love David Krumholtz. I would love to see him as the Mole Man in Fantastic Four. I just want to see Mole Man in general in Fantastic Four. Like, whether it's the first movie or sequel, whatever it may be, I need me some Mole Man. If it's played by David Krumholtz, great. If it's played by Danny DeVito, great. There's probably other options out there as well, but those are my top two for sure. But on top of that, I just want to see David Krumholtz. I want his dream to come true. I want him to join the Marvel Universe. Will that be in the MCU or will it be for Sony? I think he'd make a great Doc Ock. Now, just because the casting is good doesn't necessarily mean the movie will be good. Because Jared Leto was Morbius, I think that was great casting. But we saw how that turned out. It was Morbin time. We don't need a Doc Ock in time. That could be rough. But anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about David Krumholtz in the MCU? What do you think about Mole Man in the MCU? And who else, besides Doc Ock, besides Mole Man, besides The Thing, who else would you like to see David Krumholtz play in the Marvel Universe? So thanks for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the Marvel life.